For Alberta to achieve independence from Canada, there would need to be a clear majority of Albertans voting in a referendum for independence. Following the referendum result, so the Quebec one in the 90s was like 49 to 51, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was really
1%.
close. Very close.
Following the referendum result, constitutional negotiations between Alberta, the federal government, and other provinces would need to be successful. The legal framework for separation. Following the narrow defeat of the Quebec independence referendum in 1995, the federal government asked the Supreme Court of Canada to consider how a province could legally separate from Canada. The court provided a roadmap for legal separation in 1998, a reference. Following the case, the federal government enacted a law in 2000 to provide clarity for how the federal government would approach a future independence referendum 25 years ago. The steps to achieve Alberta independence. The Canadian Constitution would need to be amended for a province to separate from Canada. The following steps would need to be followed. 1. Decide to hold an independence referendum. While the referendum itself has no direct or legal effect on our constitutional scheme, it is required to gauge the views of the electorate on important political questions. Thus, a referendum would be necessary if Albertans want to leave Canada. 2. Decide on a referendum question to ask the population. The question needs to be clear. The Clarity Act prohibits the federal government from entering negotiations on separations if the House of Commons determines the referendum question is not clear. Blah, blah, blah. 3. Conduct the campaign, hold the referendum, and tally the votes. A campaign period would be required for the pro and anti-independence activists to advocate for their positions. The campaign would likely be divisive since the referendum would have a significant impact on the future of Alberta as well as the rest of Canada. If the pro-independence side garners the most votes in the referendum, they must have received enough votes to show a clear expression of the will of the Albertans to leave Canada. The House of Commons will decide if the majority vote in favor of separation is a clear expression of the will of Albertans to leave Canada. The court stated that considerable weight must be given to a clear expression of the will of the population to separate, but neither clear expression nor what might form a clear majority were defined. A qualitative evaluation is required to gauge a clear expression. Similarly, the Clarity Act is ironically unclear about what would form a clear majority in favor of separation. So, 5, Alberta, the federal government, and other provincial governments will engage in negotiations to change the Constitution.
Yeah, I guess it would be. I think they would do everything they could to not make that happen.
Conclusion, a long road to Alberta independence. The Quebec Succession Reference and the Clarity Act provide the legal roadmap for how Alberta could gain independence from Canada. The crisis of national unity between Alberta and the rest of Canada can make it relevant to consider how this constitutional change could occur, even if the idea of a province separating is currently only an academic exercise. It is possible for Alberta to separate from Canada, but the process would be long, uncertain, and fraught with difficulty.